And now suddenly there's this there's this woman in the house and my dad likes her and I must try and also please her and get on.
Yeah.
But, she wants me to eat like vegetables and risotto and things that I don't want to eat because she's trying to impress my dad, So there's a fair amount of understanding that child cannot become collateral damage.
So hello and welcome to Blending and Mending. Today is a very special episode because I'm interviewing Sally and Martin, and they're officially my first couple recording for Blending and Mending. And they're going to be sharing all things blended family life. So Sally and Martin, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It's going to be fun.
Yay.
Oh, so excited, so excited. So guys, let's get stuck straight into the detail. So just to create a bit of context, tell us a little bit about your blended family dynamic, what that looks like today, and then I'm going to take you back to the past. We can then really delve deeper into the stories.
Okay, well, originally that used to mean that we'd need like a whiteboard and lots of papers to map it out. So Martin is my second husband and I'm his third wife. So we like to get married a lot, as it turns out. And Martin has a beautiful daughter from each of his previous marriages. And I have no children from my first marriage. And then we have 2 children together.
Yeah. So that's why this dynamic is so interesting in terms of you guys sharing on blending and mending, because you're also going to tap into having an hours baby, and having an hours baby after divorce in a blended family dynamic also shifts things up a little bit. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are going to share. Sally, if I take you back, right, and we've had 2 conversations prior to this recording, you mentioned that you were in your 20s and you met this man, right? Take us through what it was like right in the beginning, falling in love, realizing he's got 2 kids, and stepping into a space of becoming a stepmom.
And then she met me.
So Martin and I had actually met when I was 19, actually. And I had, as dodgy as it sounds, I had dated briefly his best friend.
Who was the lecturer?
Who was my lecturer at college. And we had not gotten on very well at all. No, we didn't like each other very much. And anyway, split up with that boyfriend, and we all went our separate ways and had some marriages. And then
had some marriages.
some starter marriages.
Had some starter marriages, just to
figure it out.
A little bit of the rough spots. And then we reconnected when I was separating from my first husband, and I ended up bumping into my then ex-boyfriend, and and Martin and I reconnected and became quite good friends. And I got divorced and we started to date. And it was an amazing thing because we really had not liked each other very much at all. And it was great to kind of reconnect. Not in that
good.
There was no tension, it was just pure hate.
Yeah, I really didn't like it.
Oh, really? So you guys went from dislike to pure hate immediately?
No, completely. We sat at was it Passover dinner?
It was Passover dinner.
It was at his friend's Passover dinner, and everyone else eventually just left the table while we hurled insults at each other for some time. And then later we would also sit at the table, but then we just make out, and then no one would want to sit with us. I was not popular with friends, as it turns out. And then it was, Martin had these 2 little girls, and one of the little girls, the eldest, lived with him, and she was 9 at the time. And it was very, I was 28, and we went into this whole, I was like, this is going to be so great. But essentially I went from, sushi and cocktails and hanging out to stressing about what I was going to put into a lunchbox. I had no idea what I was going to put into a lunchbox. All of a sudden, I'm talking to a preteen about, having her first period and just things that I was not prepared for at all, but had told myself I was totally going to manage. And yeah, it was an interesting period of growth.
It was.
It was. Yeah.
Introduce some change management there. That would have been useful.
Yes. For all of us, right? Going through these phases and the ebbs and flows. Mm-hmm. And I think, like what you were saying, is it's a different phase of life. You meet someone, you fall in love. Everything is romanticized. Even him having his 2 daughters, I could imagine for you, right? And then you get into this dynamic and you love this man and everything that comes with him, but there's so many dynamics that you just didn't prepare yourself for. So yes, Change Man would have absolutely come in really handy there, just to hold someone's hand through that journey. Martin, what was it like for you? So, I mean, you were a daddy, 2 girls. Now you've met the love of your life and now integrating these 2 worlds together. What was that lens?
She means me.
Oh, the love of my life.
Yes, I mean Sally, for clarity.
Clear as kind.
It was an interesting time. I didn't realize it at the time, but I needed to make Sally my best friend before we actually got married. And it just happened that way this time. And it seems to be the best way to do it, is to marry your best friend. And for me, it was pretty easy going because I've always known I wanted children. I didn't always know I wanted a wife. And it wasn't until I was really with Sally that things started actually just going in the right direction and feeling the way it's supposed to feel.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you'd been a bachelor for a while. I mean, how long were you on your own for with your 2 girls before you and Sally decided to like each other after hating each other?
About a year and a half. So I wasn't a bachelor that long. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, you build a routine in that time. I remember straight after my divorce, that alone time in the house in terms of routine, you don't have a tag team partner anymore. So you're doing dinner time, bath time, getting the kids ready for school. All of that falls onto one person. So you get so stuck in terms of what day to day looks like. And now someone comes into the mix and that slowly starts to change. So what was that like for your girls, potentially having Sally in their lives? Can you remember what that was like?
I think specifically my eldest, she I think took to Sally actually. I felt that she took to Sally, but I think there was a lot of tension between the 2 of them that I wasn't really aware of. There were a lot of undercurrents. I'm not the most perceptible of people. I am just a man, and I didn't quite realize how much tension there was until Sally brought it to my attention.
Okay. And then again, Sally figuring it all out, right? So I almost want to take you guys back to that time because I think so many couples, again, go through this romanticized period of falling in love. You can't choose who your heart loves, right? And as you get older, you are potentially going to meet someone who has children. And then it's creating this new dynamic. I had such an awesome lady on the podcast, and she was saying to me, where do you meet people in your 30s, right? Mm-hmm. We all have children. We're not hanging out at pubs. We're not at university walking around campus hoping we're going to bump into someone. Life now looks so different. Mm-hmm. So you're in this relationship. You've got these 2 little girls. The 2 of you are also needing to figure out your ebbs and flows. So, I mean, right in the beginning, maybe, what were some of the biggest challenges you guys experienced as a blended family? And how did you navigate through that? Because I think so many people get stuck in the challenges and they don't realize that this too shall pass.
Yeah, well, I think for me, I think it was, I didn't come into it with a child. So I had no experience of being a mom. And I think when you go into a blended family where you both have a child, you understand the bond between a parent and a child. When they say, but this is my child, or this is, you understand what that relationship is. So it's easy for them to say, I love you and you're an amazing partner, but my child comes first. And if you don't have a child, it's very hard to understand that, because in all other relationships, you've come first. So it's very hard to almost not compete for attention and understand that those relationships and that love is different, and that you don't need to compete for it, because it's not the same, really. You're competing in different lanes. And I think for me that was very difficult. I didn't understand the dynamic or the relationship properly. I understood it intellectually, but I didn't. When someone says, "But his child comes first," and I'm like, "Oh, of course," and I'm like, "Oh, of course," like she must. But realistically, I didn't really think that. I was like, I have always come first, and I should come first now. And it was really difficult for me to understand that. I was also coming into a relationship where child was already grown. So they were really big and had their own routines and ways and things, which were not the way that I was raised necessarily. And there was a lot of scuffling, I guess, around the imposing of will and routine and what I thought was going to be the way it should be. And that was difficult, because when you raise your own children, they are raised in your way. So there's nothing that feels weird about it. Like they brush their teeth the way that you brushed your teeth, the way that your mom told you to brush your teeth, or whatever. There's an element of that you don't realize, that you would think a child doesn't brush their teeth the way you want them to. But I mean, how unreasonable is that as a human being? But it's all of those funny little things that became challenging. And for me, it was also around, what is my role? I didn't understand it. I couldn't really define it. Martin couldn't define it for me. Around, I wasn't her mom, there's Martin had her very young, and there's a bit of an age difference between us, obviously, and so I was even not
touching his beard.
Guys, our ages, like, even now, she was almost too. I was almost too young to even feasibly be her mom. So it was kind of a strange dynamic, and it took a while for me to actually just sit down and say, so who am I to you? Like, what is our role? And I never wanted to be her mom or replace her mom. She has a mom, and we kind of sat down eventually and had to have a conversation around, so where am I? Where do I fit in? Who am I? How do I feel about you? We had to have several conversations about being responsible and being accountable, and the differences between them. Discipline was an issue, like who disciplines. So I must be responsible for a lot of things, but I have no say in the discipline or the decisions. So there were a lot of those kind of things that were quite difficult to navigate. And eventually I went to a therapist, and which was definitely the best thing, and got professional help so that I could actually learn to navigate this properly, have the conversations. She could equip us with tools to be able to communicate well to each other, equip us with tools that we could start to put our family units together and define what that looked like for us. I think I was very lucky in the sense that looking across, I definitely got the easiest, what's now known as my bonus child. I got the easiest bonus child, just an amazing human being, and who I just love and adore so much. So that was great. And my family was super accepting as well. They immediately, she was a grandchild. She got stockings with everyone. Like, it immediately included into the bigger, like, batch of cousins, because they're like hundreds of us. So I think that really made it. I think that made a big difference, because she hadn't really had that.
Yeah.
So I think that really, really helped. And then when she was 11 or 12, we had our first child, and then 17 months later we had our second.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
wow.
Going back to the therapy, though, I felt that was amazing. I mean, I was very reluctant to actually go to it myself.
What?
I was very impressed that Sally had gone. And then I think it took a little bit of adulting and growing up on my part to actually go and also go to this therapist and listen to what they had to say and the kind of tools they were introducing into raising a blended family.
That was a game changer.
So, I mean, you touch on something so powerful, right? Because I think there's a stereotype around getting support, getting coaching, going for counseling. But we're raised, and I mean, I speak on behalf of myself and what I'm seeing in terms of the clients that I have, but you are almost raised to believe you're going to meet someone and then you're going to get married and then you're going to have your children. And we paint this picture of the white picket fence and we're going to live happily ever after. We see it in the movies. That's how we're raised. We're almost conditioned to believe that. Yeah. And I always say, you don't marry someone at the altar thinking you're going to get divorced, right? You wouldn't participate in that process then if you thought so. And then life happens and shit happens and things are out of your control and you realize somewhere along the line, this person's not meant for me anymore. And now you've got a child that's part of this dynamic, right? And leaning into support and a tribe to help you figure it out, I think is one of the best things you can do yourself or do for yourself. Because blended family life is a brand new dynamic. I mean, Sally, you touched on things that triggered my memories of when Tristan and I first started dating. And he had a son, I had a daughter, so I know what this love is. But she was still sleeping in my bed. So when he decided to, or when we decided it was time to move in, poor Mila needed to move out. And I struggled because she was still my little Nunu in bed with me. And I mean, that's a separate conversation and people don't agree with it, but that was what we did. And all these things start to change because you've brought another human being who you love into your household. They need to get to know your child while they're getting to know you and vice versa. And then Martin, on the flip side, it's, okay, so you're building a relationship with my child and we're trying to figure things out, but there is discipline and there is lunch boxes that need to be packed and teeth that need to be brushed and who steps in to do what, because now we're a family unit. And that can be confusing, it can be draining if you're not communicating and using the right tools.
And I think it's also about, understanding that you're not an expert, and you're all figuring things out. But ultimately, the one thing that cannot be sacrificed in that process is the child or the children. And they cannot pay the price for your learning curve. And that's, I think, is the big thing. So, it wasn't that long, I don't think, that we'd been in a relationship until I did go for therapy. And it was probably about 6 months. But 6 months in the life of a child is a long time. And, she couldn't have become collateral damage because I was being an immature little brat, and that wouldn't have been fair. And it was affecting her. Of course it was. Here's somebody who's also used to having their daddy all to themselves and eating disgusting cheese and gherkin crackers for every meal. And now suddenly there's this there's this woman in the house and my dad likes her and I must try and also please her and get on.
Yeah.
But, she wants me to eat like vegetables and risotto and things that I don't want to eat because she's trying to impress my dad, So there's a fair amount of understanding that child cannot become collateral damage. And that's not going to be fair. That's not where you get to
that takes maturity.
Out. Yeah. You've got to actually...
I mean, Martin, tapping into that, did you ever feel, Martin, that you had to choose between your daughters and Sally right in the beginning?
In the beginning, I think it was merely a case of trying to understand who was in charge. So Sally is in charge in all cases.
Look to the side. I was about to say.
That's after many years of it. In the beginning, yes. But initially, it did take a little bit of time for everybody to establish what their roles were. And I mean, I was still raising a 9-year-old. I was in love with a new partner. But at the same time, I also didn't want to put my daughter through too much without there being, without knowing where this was going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the divorce guilt, it's the parent guilt, it's all of that also kicks in between all of this.
Yeah.
That's probably a podcast on its own. I'm going to have you guys back and we'll talk about that. So now we are, 100%. So now we fast forward and you guys are now established. You've had the tools that you've worked through. It's implemented in your home. You guys have now had your own hours baby. How did things shift at home for you guys during that time? Was there a shift?
I think I think for me, I suddenly understood a lot more of how Martin had been feeling for a long time. So I was able to properly empathize, I guess, with where he'd been and how he felt about his child. I guess that was a lot more, I had a lot better understanding of that.
What was really reassuring to me was that Sally cared for and looked after our babies the same way she looked after my baby, for instance. So there wasn't
Beautiful.
there really wasn't a case of, well, there were two separate sets of rules.
No. Yeah.
So that was very comforting.
Yeah, and I think that, look, I struggled terribly. I had terrible postpartum with both children, and really struggled initially. But it was also amazing to have a big sister that was there to help and to lend a hand, and she was so excited to have this little baby sister to hold and play with and change nappies, and it was such a help to me. If I think back upon that period, which was a dark period for me, I really struggled. Having Jazzy on to just be there and like hold her while I took a shower and, give her her bottle and do those things, which a lot of people didn't have. I was so grateful. And I think just seeing how this kind of, I'd also been a bit fearful. I think that things would be different and that I would suddenly love my own child more, like so much more, and things would become fractured and different. And I realized that it just, all you do, and the amazing thing about children, I think the best gift is that they just show you that there isn't a finite amount of love that has to be divided. It just exponentially grows and grows and grows. The more you just have
Absolutely.
more, it just arrives and you're like, oh, okay, well, there's not a finite amount. Actually, I don't have to split it and divide it. It just doubles. And that's an amazing feeling.
For me, in terms of that, so I've become a stepmom, right? And I remember dating Tristan, we decided this is the real deal and started spending time together, introduced the kids to each other. But it's exactly that though, Sally. It's about, I always said Mila was my whole world and I loved her with my whole heart. And I say to people today, I realized that my heart had space for one more. And you have this little boy now who he's a year older than Mila and he's a ball of love. But it's not loving the one more than the other. There's a different love, right? There is a different love. And it's also not necessarily stepping in and wanting to take the place of his mom. So there's all those dynamics too. But I have a boy now. I have a bonus son. And he calls me Auntie Chantal. And when he comes home every second week, he runs into this house with the biggest, just arms open. He's ready. He's home. And it's just beautiful. It's like you're saying, your heart doubles and you don't realize there's good stuff part of this journey. It's not all doom and gloom when people hear about divorce and blended family life. There are so many blessings that form part of it.
Yeah, I think if you're open to it, I think it really can just, increase it. And I've seen, I haven't seen that many, but I've seen some. My aunt and uncle divorced when they were quite young with two girls. They're both married again. And the four of them have co-parented, those two, my cousins, their whole lives, and they just have more love. The child is just loved by extra people. I think that's such an amazing dynamic.
It's beautiful.
To be able to just be loved by more people. Who doesn't want that?
Guys, maybe tapping into some of your tools, because I could already hear people saying they've spoken about tools. What are those tools? Share some of those tools. Is there anything that you feel was an absolute deal breaker that you guys implemented into your home that fundamentally made a difference for you guys that you're prepared to share with us?
Well, I know what my mum would be.
I'll do the star chart.
Yeah. I'll take my star chart.
So there's the star chart
the simple star chart.
Yeah, the therapist introduced to us. It was a great idea, and for all the different activities that my eldest would do, we'd give her a recognition of a star or a stamp of some sort. And then at the end of the week, if she had filled up all her stars, she could have a gift or a present. And always the thing she'd want is time with me. So that was her gift or her present.
Oh, how beautiful.
And after, I think, probably about...
And then would that be alone time? Sorry, Sally. Martin, would that be alone time with you?
Not even necessarily, but just time with us, I think, even.
Yeah, I was going to say for the first three or four, maybe even up to 6 months, it was time with Martin. But then it slowly started to be, and I think that's when like the big shift started to happen, was then it was time with us. Could we go to the park? Could we go to a picnic? Could we go to my parents' house? Could we do and any request that it was never monetary. She never wanted a present. She never wanted, occasionally movies, I guess. But it was always about like the dedicated time. And I think that that's also been something that we've implemented. I mean, she's getting married now, and she's old. And the one thing we've implemented now, even with our two that are still at home, is every evening. I work very crazy hours. Every evening we each spend half an hour of alone time with each child individually. So we do half an hour and then we swap, and then we do half an hour, and the kid gets to pick the activity. So if it's stickers or singing or Lego or reading or anything they want to do, we do that thing with that child for half an hour, and it's just one-on-one time every night so that they go to bed feeling loved and cherished and seen. And I think that's a big thing. It's not necessarily about the volume of time. I think it's about the intensity, I guess.
And if you're thinking that we're saints for doing this, because I'm thinking that,
we are.
It does require a bit of effort in the evenings. It's not always an easy ask, but we do it.
But I was going to say, right, it's intentional. So you guys it's conscious parenting is what I'm hearing. And there's intentionality in terms of, this is the time I'm carving out for my child, for my family, and these are the benefits. I think so many people just expect things to fall into place automatically, and that's not how life works. You need to be intentional in terms of what you want to achieve as your household. What do you want the vibe of your home to be? And then plan into that vibe. Like you're saying, your children are going to go to bed feeling loved. There was a conversation around that. How do we do this? Which is just so special.
Yeah.
So guys, in terms of words of...
sorry. It's a bit of a...
Sorry, Sally, there was a delay. Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I think that for us, the big thing, I think the intentionality has been a big part of making it work, because there's so many dynamics. I think being intentional, having the conversations around, this isn't working for me and this is why, and sitting down and having round tables. We have a lot of those around decision making with the kids, and there's a lot of consultation. I think that's been really good.
Yeah.
Having the big conversations, making time to have the big conversations. And then what I'm hearing is if you're saying consultation, it's not the two of you making decisions and passing it down, it's family discussions.
Very much so. The children have their inputs. I don't know if that was a good thing to do, but they do. And
I believe that. Yeah, I'm the same parent.
No, seems to work.
And then, guys, for me, maybe just ending off, right, in terms of, so I've got 2 questions. So maybe, Martin, the first one directed to you.
I'm going to switch on the light while you do that.
What words of wisdom... Okay, I've noticed it's gone super dark. But Martin, what would you... It is dark. I thought it was just me. That's so much better. I can see. gosh. In terms of just whether it's male or female, stepping into a space where I've got my child, I'm now meeting someone, I'm embracing a new relationship, a new family dynamic. What would your words of wisdom be? Just stepping into that new relationship and building a new future.
Well, if you feel confident that the person that you're involved with, it's serious and it's going to go somewhere, then my advice would be to actually put them first, to actually say that you are my number one person, and that when it comes to making decisions about our children or my child, that they will have consultation. They will be first on the consultation line and we'll discuss these things. And as a family, it's not easy to make that, to go from being, I am the sole parent, I make all the decisions, to being, well, we actually are a unit now, and these discussions need to happen internally.
Yeah. And is there relief in that, sharing the load with the person you've decided to be your partner and to do this thing called life together?
That's yes.
She's going to start scratching your beard again. Because there's so much that's wrapped into it, right? There can be so much stress, and you've got ex-partners and children and dynamics and having a say, not having a say. Do I step in? Don't I step in? It can cause a lot of conflict in a home, but I love what you're saying in terms of put your partner first. They're your partner. Share in that engagement because you're raising a family together.
Correct. And I don't think there's a way that you can say your child, my child, our children without causing some kind of conflict.
Mm-hmm. But there's a mindset there, and I think you genuinely need to feed into the fact that you are now a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we were at tennis the once, and there was a lady standing around, and Tristan and I kind of fumbled over our words because we had the kids with us. And Tristan was saying, this is my son, and this is my stepdaughter. So not our son, my son. And we went into this whole explanation, right, of our family dynamic to an absolute stranger who wanted to know, how are our kids doing? Like, it was early days, completely caught off guard. And Tristan and I decided consciously that we're in this and we're a family. And yes, Mila has a dad and Jordan has his mom, but they're our kids too. So now when we speak about our children, I'll speak about my son, he'll speak about his daughter. And it just cements us as a unit.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a
And then
difference.
Sally, my last question for you.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Sally, go for it. No, go. You were saying it's such a difference.
For the kids to be heard, to be referred to as our children and my son and my daughter, it makes a big difference there. And that's ultimately the most important part.
Yeah, it's cementing your family unit. So my question for you, Sally, is I had a podcast recently with a lady, and our topic was the power of hindsight, what I wish I knew before I became a stepmom, right? If you could reflect on one thing that you could share with women stepping into a relationship, not knowing what this thing called stepmom is all about, what would your words of wisdom be for them?
Sure, that's a tough one. Let me think. I think it's about knowing yourself and going in and being as brutally honest with the person as you can be about who you are, where you are, and what your expectations are. I think that the not understanding expectation being at the root of all heartache is truly the big thing. And to be able to say, if I could go back and have that conversation with Martin straight off the bat, really, and say, I'm 28. I've never had a child. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. I don't know if this is for me, but I want us to be able to communicate about it. And, and I need to be able to tell you where I'm at, and for that to be okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to have said that up front, instead of sort of fake it till you make it, I can do this, I've got it handled, and I'm going to be perfect. I put a big expectation that I was going to be perfect at this.
Yeah.
Without understanding
the best stepmom.
Oh, the best, like the best, and without understanding what it was to be a mom. How could I possibly be the best at something I had no experience at? Although, to be honest, that's kind of my approach to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ballroom dancing is a whole other podcast that we could talk about one day. But that would be it. Be candidly honest. And you know what? If it ends up not being for you, or not for you at that time, that's okay. And if you need to step back from that because it's not going to be a good move for you, that's okay as well. But set that expectation, have that conversation up front, and for both of you. And I think that if you're honest about that straight away, you don't need to fake it, because the only person that ultimately is going to suffer is going to be the child. So try and just be as candid as you can be. And ultimately, we're all adults. We've all done hard things. We'll all be able to move on and get over it. But the children are the collateral damage. So rather be honest.
I must be honest, I'm kind of glad we didn't have that conversation in the beginning, because I don't know if Sally
I probably would have said.
If I look at how much this woman adores you, I don't think anything could have swayed her, honestly. My first experience with Sally was she was in a presentation for work, and the way she spoke about you, Martin, right? How you step up as a dad, that you're doing pickups and drop-offs, you arrange the play dates, or the mums arrange the play dates with you. It's just who you are as a dad, who you are as a hubby, and how you show up in your family's life. This woman was smitten. So whatever you're doing right. Guys, thank you so much for just coming on to the Blending and Mending podcast. I think, and again, echoing words in the beginning of the podcast, was so many people get stuck in the bits of this life that just don't work, and they can get so stuck in a crossroad where they just don't realize that there's options and there are tools. Communicate, be honest. Remember that the kids are in the center, right? Figure this out together as a family unit. Take some of the pressure off. We don't have to be A-type perfect. We can go in the flow and figure this out as we do it, as a family unit. But for me, it's also, again, this too shall pass. If I listen to you guys and what some of the struggles were in the beginning, I can imagine, Sally, that you pack a lunchbox like a boss and that the whole family love risotto. There we go. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I would love to have the two of you back on the podcast, and I'm just excited to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your journey with so many others.
Thanks you so much. And kudos to you for doing it. It is such an unexplored topic, and so many people are going through it. So well done. And I think, I think there really is a light that needs to be shined on these topics and conversations. So thank you so much for being brave enough to host them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I want to speak to you soon. I'm going to have you back on soon. This is now documented. It's going to be published. We have witnesses. Have a lovely evening, guys. Speak to you soon. Bye. Bye.